You've probably seen the explosions, heard the roaring, and maybe even debated whether it was Godzilla. Behind the flashy CGI and the massive hype surrounding the 1998 remake are a few strange and overlooked facts that most fans have never heard about. From abandoned sequels to spoiled critic cameos, this movie was packed with decisions just as weird as the creature. So buckle up as we count down 20 weird facts you didn't know about Godzilla. Yes, that one from 1998. Number 20. A full-size Godzilla foot was built for just a few scenes. Beginning at number 20 is one of the most extravagant and overlooked facts about Godzilla from the year 1998, which is that the production team went as far as building a full-size replica of Godzilla's foot. This was not a small prop for the set or a scaled model. This massive life-sized foot was designed to appear on screen only for a few shots. The purpose of this gigantic foot was later revealed to be mainly for close-up sequences, where Godzilla steps onto vehicles or crashes through buildings. The most iconic use of the foot is seen in the film's early scenes when it stomps down in the middle of a busy New York street, crushing a car underneath. It was meant to give the illusion of weight, realism, and practical effects, which were used alongside CGI, and this prop played a significant role in selling the destruction to the audience. According to behind-the-scenes interviews, the foot took a lot of time to make, and it was expensive. It was built using a combination of metal framework, foam, and rubber materials to support both the shape and texture of Godzilla's scaly skin. Set designers and practical effects teams spent several weeks on this prop alone. Number 19. A cartoon spin-off redeemed the movie's reputation. At number 19, the weird fact is that Godzilla from the year 1998 got more mixed to negative reviews and backlash from fans of the original franchise than positive ones. Its animated follow-up series, which was titled Godzilla, the series, managed to do what the film could not, to gain the respect of fans who saw the original franchise. The cartoon began showing in 1998, just a few months after the film's release. It continued the storyline directly from the movie's end, where a surviving Godzilla egg hatches in the ruins of Madison Square Garden. Another major shift was in tone and execution, and this is because the animated series treated its subject matter with more seriousness and gave Godzilla a more respectable personality. Instead of running from military attacks, this version of Godzilla often fought alongside humans to defeat dangerous threats. It was more loyal to the spirit of the original Toho productions. In terms of storytelling, the series provided better character development, world building, and showcased the continuity of things that the movie was often criticized for lacking. It even included episodes that directly addressed the global consequences of giant monster attacks, adding more depth than what was shown in the film. Number 18. Matthew Broderick was cast unexpectedly. One of the more unexpected casting choices in the film Godzilla from the year 1998 was the selection of actor Matthew Broderick to play the lead role of Dr. Nico Tatopoulos. This unexpected casting choice happened because at the time, Broderick was known for his performance in the hit comedy film Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which had been released for over a decade. Director Roland Emmerich and producer Dean Devlin chose Broderick because they believed his persona and previous roles would make the character more relatable and likable to general audiences. They were reportedly aiming for a lead who could make people laugh, was intelligent, and had a sense of vulnerability, rather than a traditional action hero type. Broderick's everyman charm, especially as shown in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, reportedly made him the right choice in their eyes. However, this decision raised concerns even before the film hit theaters. Many fans and critics alike questioned Broderick's comedic background and whether his delivery pattern was a good fit for a massive disaster movie like Godzilla. In interviews, Broderick acknowledged that he was surprised to be cast in such a movie because it was an action movie with a big budget. He said he took the role partly because it seemed like a fun challenge and a chance to do something completely different from his usual comedic work. Although he played his part and did his best in the movie with the material, the comments from fans and critics alike were often focused on whether his casting was the right fit for the tone and stakes of the story. His involvement in the project remains one of the most unusual decisions made during the casting process. Number 17. The marketing budget nearly matched the film's production budget.
You to find him. Just buy a medium or larger drink. If you find a Godzilla, use your decoder to reveal what you've won.
Another outrageous aspect of the Godzilla film was not what appeared on the screen, but what happened behind the scenes in the marketing department. The promotional campaign for the movie was so massive and expensive that it came close to matching the actual production cost of the film itself. The official production budget for Godzilla was reportedly estimated to be around 130 million United States dollars. The amount spent on marketing and promotional partnerships was estimated to be nearly 120 million United States dollars, and this level of spending made it one of the most heavily marketed movies of its time. Sony Pictures, the studio behind the film, partnered with many major brands for promotional efforts. These included fast food chains, toy manufacturers, soft drink companies, clothing lines, and automotive advertisers. Everywhere the public turned in the months leading up to the film's release, there were products and advertisements themed for Godzilla. The intense marketing efforts created a level of hype that the final product could not meet, contributing to the backlash and disappointment of fans and critics alike. This aggressive campaign is now reportedly remembered as a case study in Hollywood for how marketing can sometimes outshine the movie itself, and is not always in a good way. Number 16. The baby Godzillas were inspired by Jurassic Park's raptors. One of the most surprising yet heavily criticized parts of the Godzilla film was the inclusion of baby Godzilla. These smaller and faster creatures appeared in the latter part of the movie during a scene in Madison Square Garden. Many viewers do not realize that their design and behavior were directly inspired by the velociraptors from Jurassic Park, which was released 5 years earlier in the year 1993. The filmmakers behind Godzilla openly admitted in interviews that they were influenced by the success of Jurassic Park, particularly its raptor scenes. The baby Godzillas were designed to be agile, predatory, and capable of chasing humans through confined spaces, just like the raptors did in the kitchen scene of Jurassic Park, which was iconic at the time. The similarities were unmistakable, from their movement patterns to the tension building in their scenes. In Godzilla, the baby creatures hatch from a large number of eggs laid by the adult Godzilla inside Madison Square Garden. Godzilla was always portrayed as a lone creature or a rival to other giant monsters, not as a species with hundreds of offspring acting like dinosaurs in a horror chase scene. Visually, the baby Godzilla shared more features with reptiles than the traditional Godzilla look. They had sleek bodies, fast movement, and a pack mentality that again mirrored the raptors. Critics argued that this confused the film's identity and turned what should have been a Godzilla story into a monster thriller. Number 15. The mayor and his assistant were spoofs of film critics. A detail that many people overlooked after the film's release of Godzilla is that two supporting characters, who were Mayor Ebert and his assistant Gene, were not randomly named. They were in fact direct spoofs of the famous film critics Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, who were known at the time for their running movie review show. Roland, Emmerich, and Dean Devlin, the director and producer of Godzilla, had received negative reviews from Ebert and Siskel for their previous film, Independence Day, which was released in the year 1996. The critics had praised some of the spectacle but criticized the film's dialogue, plot holes, and overuse of destruction. Instead of ignoring this feedback, the filmmakers inserted a jab into their next big-budget movie, Godzilla. In Godzilla, Mayor Ebert is shown as a clueless politician, hungry for votes, and is constantly worried about his public image. His assistant, Gene, follows him around and supports his every move. The character's appearance and mannerisms were modeled after Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, respectively, although the filmmakers never officially admitted to this being an act of mockery. When Roger Ebert reviewed Godzilla, he immediately recognized the caricature. Instead of responding angrily, he used the opportunity to criticize the film again. This time, in his review, He wrote that if the filmmakers were going to parody him, the least they could have done was make his character heroic or give him something significant to do. He also noted that the spoof was lazy and ultimately pointless. Number 14. Godzilla was supposed to fight a giant insect. Although the Godzilla film was not well received by critics or longtime fans of the franchise, the filmmakers, primarily producer Dean Devlin and director Roland Emmerich, had ambitious plans for a second film that would continue the story and introduce new creatures, including a giant insect as the next big enemy. According to early reports and concept materials that came to light years later, the sequel was supposed to follow the surviving baby Godzilla that hatched in Madison Square Garden at the end of the first movie. This Godzilla was supposed to grow into a new, more heroic version of the monster that would defend the world rather than destroy it. The setting for the sequel was reportedly planned to shift away from the United States and take place in a remote area, possibly somewhere in South America or Asia, where the new Godzilla would encounter a massive insect that looked like a kaiju. This creature was described in early drafts as having wings, long limbs, and a deadly stinger, and it was meant to pose a significant threat not just to the human characters but to Godzilla as well. The idea behind the insect enemy was to introduce a more traditional monster versus monster battle, which fans had expected but did not get in the first film. The original Godzilla series from Japan often featured Godzilla fighting other giant beasts like Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Rodan. By adding a giant insect enemy, the sequel would have moved closer to that classic formula. Unfortunately, the sequel never moved forward, and despite making money at the box office, the first film received heavy backlash for its redesign of Godzilla tone and departure from the established mythology. The poor reception led Sony Pictures to cancel the sequel quietly, and the planned trilogy was scrapped entirely. Number 13. Toho later changed Godzilla's name, in this film to Zilla. One of the most significant moves made by Toho, the original Japanese studio behind the Godzilla franchise, came years after the release of the 1998 American adaptation. In response to the backlash surrounding the drastic redesign and characterization of the creature, Toho officially renamed the monster from the American film to something else entirely, Zilla. The name change was seen as more than just cosmetic. It was also seen as a statement, and according to Toho representatives, including veteran producer Shogo Tomiyama, the American version of the creature did not embody what Godzilla was supposed to be. He publicly stated that the creature had taken the god out of Godzilla, meaning it lacked the original Japanese monster's power, symbolism, and iconic presence. Toho first used the name Zilla officially in 2004 during the release of their film Godzilla Final Wars, which was created to mark the franchise's 50th anniversary. In that movie, the original Japanese Godzilla fights and quickly defeats the American version, now called Zilla, in a short battle set in Sydney, Australia. The scene lasted just a few seconds and was meant to mock the American creature's perceived weakness and poor reception. Toho also updated its official databases, licensing materials, and merchandise to reflect the new name. From that point forward, the monster from the 1998 film was no longer referred to as Godzilla in official Japanese continuity. It was instead treated as a separate entity called Zilla, with its design and backstory. Number 12. The soundtrack sold better than the movie performed. While the Godzilla film released in the year 1998 received mixed and negative reviews and failed to meet box office expectations, its official soundtrack, on the other hand, experienced a surprisingly strong commercial performance and became one of the most successful parts of the entire project. The soundtrack featured many popular artists from the late 1990s, including Puff Daddy, Jamiroquai, Rage Against the Machine, Foo Fighters, and Green Day. The most heavily promoted track was Come With Me, which was a reworked version of Led Zeppelin's Kashmir, and it was performed by Puff Daddy, credited at the time as Puffy, and guitarist Jimmy Page. The song received heavy airplay on both radio and television, and its music video, which included scenes from the film, was in constant rotation on music channels like MTV. Come With Me became a commercial hit in multiple countries and was nominated for several music awards. Despite criticism over its bold sampling of a rock classic, The track helped bring attention to the soundtrack and drove strong sales. Financially, the soundtrack outperformed the film in some markets, especially in terms of longevity. While the movie had a strong opening at the box office, it quickly lost momentum after negative reviews spread. Meanwhile, the soundtrack continued to sell well weeks and months after the film left theaters. Number 11. Jean Reno's character was a parody of French director Luc Besson. In the Godzilla film released in 1998, French actor Jean Reno played the role of Philippe Roache, a mysterious and resourceful agent from the French Secret Service. At first glance, his character may appear to be just another supporting figure. Still, various sources have widely believed and supported that Philippe Roache was a subtle parody or tribute to French filmmaker Luc Besson. Luc Besson was known for directing films such as Léon, The Professional, The Fifth Element, and La Femme Nikita. He was a rising star in international cinema during the 1990s, and his unique style, which mixed European cinema with Hollywood flair, earned him critical acclaim and box office success. He was also a close friend and collaborator of Jean Reno, who appeared in several of Besson's films. Philippe Roache's mannerisms, dry humor, and calm under pressure in Godzilla showed the cool and calculated characters that often appeared in Besson's movies. More specifically, the idea of a French agent conducting operations in secret, while appearing somewhat aloof or ironic, matched the tone seen in Besson's storytelling. Jean Reno's accent, delivery, and even body language in several scenes appeared intentionally exaggerated, possibly to show the stylized way Besson portrayed French operatives and criminals in his films. While Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, the director and producer of Godzilla, never officially confirmed that the character was meant as a parody or homage, the parallels were strong enough that fans and film analysts widely accepted the theory. Number 10. The Madison Square Garden scenes were shot in a Hollywood sports arena. Madison Square Garden is one of the most memorable locations featured in the Godzilla film released in 1998. It is the famous sports and entertainment arena located in New York City. In the movie, this venue plays a preeminent role in the plot, serving as the hidden nesting ground where Godzilla lays hundreds of eggs, which eventually hatch into several baby Godzillas. While the film gave the viewers the impression that these intense scenes were shot on location in New York, the reality is quite different. None of the scenes inside Madison Square Garden were filmed at the real location. They were a replica of the interior built inside the Great Western Forum in Inglewood, California, a former home of the Los Angeles Lakers basketball team, by the production team. This was due to the exorbitant expenses of shooting all the complex scenes in the venue. The Forum was transformed into a stand-in for Madison Square Garden. Set designers carefully created a replica to match the arena's corridors, seats, locker rooms, and interior structure based on photographs and blueprints of others, create the illusion of being inside Madison Square Garden. The illusion was too perfect to be noticed by many viewers. The design team's work was convincing enough that even people familiar with Madison Square Garden's interior often believed the illusion of the scenes being shot on site. However, the facade was spotted by New Yorkers and discerning critics who later pointed out minute inaccuracies in the layout and structure of the replica. Number 9. The film was originally supposed to start a trilogy. When the Godzilla film was being developed, the intention was never to make it a standalone movie. From the earliest stages of production, Sony Pictures and the filmmakers Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin had envisioned the film as the beginning of a new trilogy that would reinvent the Godzilla franchise for a Western audience. The studio hoped that this new version of Godzilla would lead to multiple sequels, merchandising opportunities, and possibly even a shared cinematic universe involving other monsters or original creations. The storyline for the proposed sequels was set to follow the surviving baby Godzilla, seen at the end of the first movie. This offspring would eventually grow into a more powerful and possibly heroic version of Godzilla, aligning more with the classic monster's traditional role as a protector or force of balance. The second and third films were expected to include new monsters, global stakes, and a deeper exploration of the creature's origins. According to reports, production on the sequel was tentatively scheduled to begin shortly after the first film's release. However, everything changed after the film was released and met with widespread disappointment. Though Godzilla opened strong at the box office and made a respectable amount of money, the hostile reception from critics and longtime fans of the original Japanese films created a massive backlash. With declining ticket sales and overwhelming criticism, Sony quietly shelved all plans for the sequels. As a result, the intended trilogy was never completed, and the American version of Godzilla from 1998 became a one-off entry in the franchise's long history. Number 8. It was the first Godzilla movie not made by Toho Studios. The Godzilla film holds a unique place in the franchise's history because it was the first official Godzilla movie not made by Toho Studios. This original Japanese company created the character in 1954. This was a significant shift for the series, as it was the first time a full-length theatrical Godzilla film was produced entirely outside of Japan and by a non-Japanese studio. Toho had long maintained creative control over the Godzilla brand, producing over 20 films featuring the monster before the 1998 version. However, by the early 1990s, Toho began exploring the possibility of expanding Godzilla's appeal to international audiences, particularly in the United States. The idea was to allow an American studio to create its version of the character using Hollywood resources and budgets. Sony Pictures acquired the rights and handed the project over to the filmmaking duo of Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, who had recently gained fame for directing Independence Day. With a large budget and access to advanced special effects, Sony hoped to bring Godzilla to a new generation of viewers with a modern, Hollywood-style reboot. Despite its differences, the film remained the only Godzilla movie produced outside Toho until 2014, when Legendary Pictures released their American reboot with Toho's full support and closer creative collaboration. Number 7. A Taco Bell Chihuahua became more iconic than the movie's Godzilla.
You to find him. Just buy a medium or larger drink. If you find a Godzilla, use your decoder to reveal what you've won.
In the months leading up to the release of the Godzilla film in the year 1998, the marketing team behind the movie launched an aggressive and far-reaching promotional campaign. One of this campaign's most memorable and unlikely parts came from a collaboration with Taco Bell, a popular American fast food chain. This partnership brought about a series of television commercials featuring a small talking chihuahua that, to the surprise of many, became more popular, iconic, and culturally remembered than the film's version of Godzilla itself. The commercials featured the animated chihuahua trying to catch Godzilla using clever traps and baiting the monster with a box of tacos. The dog's signature catchphrase, "Here, lizard, lizard, lizard," was delivered in a slow, exaggerated voice and quickly caught on with audiences. Another line, "I think I need a bigger box," was a parody of the film's official slogan, "Size does matter." These commercials became instant hits, playing frequently on television and becoming part of pop culture in their own right. The popularity of the Taco Bell Chihuahua during this campaign was so great that it overshadowed the actual movie in terms of public recognition. Many people who had never seen the film were still familiar with the fast food ads. While the Taco Bell promotion helped raise awareness and temporarily boosted merchandise sales, it also became a lasting symbol of how the film's marketing became more memorable than the movie itself. Number 6. The creature was faster and more agile than any previous Godzilla. One of the most controversial creative choices made in the Godzilla film for the year 1998 was the complete reimagining of the creature's physical characteristics. The original Japanese Godzilla, which was portrayed as a slow-moving, towering figure that stomped through cities with unstoppable force, the American version was designed to be leaner, faster, and far more agile. This new Godzilla was depicted as being able to sprint through the streets of New York City, leap over buildings, dive underwater, and disappear quickly from view. The design team and director Roland Emmerich reportedly chose to give the creature more lizard-like features, modeling it after real-life reptiles such as the iguana and Komodo dragon. This was a drastic departure from the classic Godzilla look, which had always included a thick, upright posture and a sense of deliberate movement. The production team used advanced computer-generated imagery to bring this version of Godzilla to life. With the help of visual effects companies Centropolis Effects and Sony Imageworks, animators created scenes of the monster running between buildings, ducking under elevated trains, and easily avoiding military attacks. The creature's speed and evasiveness became a core part of the plot, frustrating the characters and the military forces trying to stop it. The creature's agility also contributed to the movie's overall tone, feeling more like a chase film than a traditional kaiju story. Rather than facing off against other monsters or delivering massive destruction in slow, deliberate scenes, this Godzilla spent most of the movie dodging missiles and hiding in tunnels. While attempting to modernize the creature for a new audience was understandable, the execution proved to be one of the most divisive aspects of the film. To this day, the creature's speed and design continue to be a point of debate among fans and critics alike. Number 5. Jean Reno was not the first choice to play the French agent. One of Godzilla's most memorable human characters is Philippe Roache, a secret French agent played by actor Jean Reno. His role is part serious and comedic, and he is shown leading a small team of French operatives trying to cover up their country's role in the nuclear tests that created Godzilla. During the early stages of casting, the filmmakers had several names in mind for the French agent character. One of the most commonly discussed names was Jean-Claude Van Damme, the Belgian martial arts star who was very popular during the 1990s. At that time, Van Damme was known for action films like Bloodsport, Kickboxer, and Time Cop, and the producers reportedly considered him because of his international fame and tough guy image. However, Van Damme was either not interested in the role or turned it down due to scheduling conflicts or creative differences, making the studio look elsewhere. Eventually, the role was offered to Jean Reno, who had become known for his performances in movies like Léon, The Professional, and Mission Impossible. Reno had already played tough, mysterious characters in several films, and his French background made him a natural fit for the part of Philippe Roache. Number 4. A Godzilla designer quit the project out of frustration. One of the strangest events during the production of Godzilla from the year 1998 was that one of the original creature designers, artist, and sculptor, Patrick Tatopoulos, almost walked away from the project, and another known designer did leave due to disagreements over Godzilla's new look and creative direction. TriStar Pictures and director Roland Emmerich wanted a completely new version of the monster, which would distance the American version from the traditional Japanese Godzilla. The Toho version of Godzilla had always looked like a giant, upright reptilian dinosaur with rough skin, dorsal fins, and short, powerful arms. The American team, however, wanted their version of the creature to be faster, leaner, more animalistic, and even capable of running at high speeds through a city. They hired Patrick Tatopoulos, a designer known for his work on movies like Stargate and Independence Day, to bring that to life. Emmerich gave Tatopoulos complete freedom to redesign Godzilla from scratch, which led to the version we see in the film. A sleek creature that resembles a giant iguana or raptor, rather than the slow monster fans were used to. This radical change caused friction, and some members of the effects and concept art team pushed back against the direction, saying it didn't feel like Godzilla anymore. One senior designer, Ricardo Delgado, left the project entirely. Delgado had worked on early concepts but became frustrated when it was clear that Emmerich was determined to move away from the traditional image. He reportedly felt they were making just another generic monster, not Godzilla. Tatopoulos himself admitted later that there was a lot of internal tension. He once said in an interview that he was unsure whether the design would be accepted. Number 3. The design of Godzilla was based on real animals. One of the most talked about aspects of the 1998 Godzilla movie was the monster's radically different appearance compared to previous versions. The classic Godzilla had a bulky, upright, almost dinosaur form with scaly skin and a thunderous presence. The version in this film looked more like a giant reptilian predator that could sprint, jump, and even hide. This design shift was very intentional and heavily inspired by real-life animals. Patrick Tatopoulos, a known creature designer and special effects artist, handled the creature's redesign. He was given complete creative freedom by director Roland Emmerich, who clarified that he wanted to break away from the traditional Godzilla look entirely. Emmerich reportedly told Toho, "Don't look at the old Godzilla, don't reference it at all. I want something completely new." Toho went to work by studying various animals' movements and body structure. According to interviews, the iguana was one of the main inspirations for the new Godzilla. This made sense within the film's plot, since the story begins with nuclear tests in French Polynesia affecting lizard eggs. Number 2. The movie used over 400 computer-generated shots, which was a big deal at the time. When Godzilla was released in 1998, one of the most significant technical achievements was computer-generated imagery, also called CGI. At that time, CGI was still a developing tool in the film industry, and while a few movies like Jurassic Park and Terminator 2, Judgment Day had already shown that realistic computer effects were possible, those films only used CGI for specific moments. Godzilla was different because of the heavy and constant use of digital effects to show the monster throughout the film. In total, the movie used more than 400 computer-generated shots. These shots included scenes of Godzilla running through New York City, swimming underwater, smashing buildings, dodging missiles, and interacting with the military. It also included the scenes inside Madison Square Garden that featured the baby Godzillas, which were partly created with CGI and partly with animatronics and models. Using this much CGI was a significant challenge because the technology was expensive, consumed much time, and was still new to many parts of the movie industry. The work done on CGI was considered groundbreaking because it allowed the filmmakers to shoot large-scale action scenes with total control over the monster's behavior. Some of the most famous shots in the movie, like Godzilla peeking through a skyscraper, jumping into the Hudson River, or being chased by helicopters, were only possible because of these digital tools. Number 1. The original title was almost Godzilla 2000. Ending at number 1 is that before the 1998 version of Godzilla received its final title, there were early reports of internal discussions at TriStar Pictures and Centropolis Entertainment. These discussions were about the suggestion that the film be called Godzilla 2000 because, at the time, the word 2000 was widely used in pop culture to create a sense of modernity and futuristic appeal. Movies, music albums, electronics, and even soft drinks were being branded with 2000 in their names to tap into the buzz surrounding the upcoming new millennium. The filmmakers reportedly considered this trend when considering how to market their modern reboot of the classic Japanese monster franchise. However, the title Godzilla 2000 was never finalized or officially registered because the film moved deeper into production, and the name was simplified to just Godzilla, possibly to keep it more recognizable and direct for global marketing purposes. Around this same period, Toho Studios, the original Japanese creator of the Godzilla character, was also working on its reboot. In 1999, Toho released Godzilla 2000 Millennium in Japan. They trademarked that title for international use, ensuring that TriStar and other studios could no longer use it for their American productions. There are accounts from team members and film industry insiders that during the early stages of development, some concept materials and merchandise prototypes carried the Godzilla 2000 label. These were revised before the film's theatrical release in May 1998. Ultimately, the film premiered simply as Godzilla and served as the first and only entry in what was planned to be a trilogy. Ironically, it was Toho's own Godzilla 2000, which was released just 1 year later, that reconnected more successfully with longtime fans and critics. So while Godzilla 2000 was never an official title, it was part of the conversation during early development, showing how studios on both sides of the Pacific were racing to modernize the King of the Monsters for the new millennium. What do you think about this movie? Share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to share this video, like it, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.